Hey everyone! Thanks for clicking on my video. In this video, we are going to be doing a deep dive into the Grace of the Elves item. The Grace of the Elves is a necklace slot item, which provides a host of quality of life buffs to skilling. To make the Grace of the Elves from scratch, if you're an Ironman, the player will need to first create an alchemical onyx, which can be made at 107 invention at an inventor's workbench with 1 onyx, 50 fortunate components, 50 refined components, and 10 precious components. Then, at 91 crafting, the player can make an alchemical onyx necklace with the alchemical onyx, a gold bar, and a necklace mold at a furnace. Finally, the player can cast the level 6 enchant spell on the alchemical onyx necklace, requiring 87 magic, to convert it into the Grace of the Elves. If you want to simply purchase the Grace of the Elves, at the time of writing the script, it is currently worth 76 million GP. Keep in mind, however, that once you equip the necklace, it will become untradeable forever, so be sure you want to keep it before equipping it. The Grace of the Elves is worn in the necklace slot and provides 0 combat bonuses while worn. However, it does provide other effects, largely benefiting gathering skills. The first effect is that the Grace of the Elves provides immediate and infinite access to the Max Guild Garden teleports, if you can use them. The Max Guild Garden is located in southeast Prifddinas, after completion of the Plague's End quest, which requires 75 in agility, construction, crafting, dungeoneering, herblore, mining, prayer, ranged, summoning, and woodcutting, as well as level 70 fletching, 50 thieving, and 30 cooking. To gain entry to the Max Guild Garden, the player must either have 99 in at least one skill, or own a quest cape. Once you can access the garden, you can attune one of the Max Garden teleports for a fee, which your Grace of the Elves will be able to use wherever you are in Gielinor. Once you have leveled up 15 different skills to 99, you then will be able to attune and use the second Max Garden teleport with your Grace of the Elves. However, if you cannot access the Max Guild Garden, then you can attune the Grace of the Elves to one of the Max Guild Garden teleports when you equip it for the first time, but you will not be able to change the attunement until you then gain access to the Max Guild Garden. There are 18 teleport locations for the skill portals, but I will point out 2 in particular. The first is the Fairy Ring teleport, which teleports you directly to the Zanera's Fairy Ring, useful for accessing the Fairy Ring network. The second teleport I'll point out is the Deep Sea Fishing Hub teleport, which transports the player directly next to a bank, allowing quick and easy bank access when, for example, doing runecrafting runs. The second effect is that the Grace of the Elves reduces the prayer drain rate of 3 Seren-aligned spells, in particular Light Form, which increases the efficacy of multiple Seren-aligned spells, Superheat Form, which provides bonuses to firemaking and smithing, and Chronicle Attraction, which provides bonuses to divination. The prayer drain rates of these prayers are reduced from 300 to 150 points per minute, 100 to 50 points per minute, and 100 to 50 points per minute for each prayer respectively. If you couple this effect with certain prayer point boosting items, like the Ancient Elven Ritual Shard, which restores 37.5% of the player's prayer points, you can extend your prayer points near infinitely with very few clicks per minute while skilling. The third effect of the Grace of the Elves is that it can hold up to 500 Sign of the Porter charges, allowing the necklace to function as a Sign of the Porter when worn. What these charges do is automatically teleport certain items to the player's bank when acquired. Generally speaking, these items are gathered items like archaeology materials, herbs and plants from farming, ores from mining, fish from fishing, logs from woodcutting, and materials from hunting. The charges also teleport a collection of other items when picked up, for example, Muspa spines and phoenix feathers. The player can boost the power of the second and third effects outlined by consuming a Dark Facet of Grace, which provides an account level enchantment to the Grace of the Elves. To make a Dark Facet of Grace for Ironmen, the player must combine a Dark Onyx core, obtained from certain Wilderness Flash events, with 7 Seren components, 10 Onyxes, and 5 Crystal Tool Seeds, requiring 85 invention. If a player wishes to buy this enchantment off the Grand Exchange, they can, but will be spending a hefty 775 million GP. The Dark Facet of Grace enchantment provides 2 improvements to the Grace of the Elves. For one, it improves the prayer drain rate reduction outlined previously from 50% to 100% reduction. Also, the maximum amount of porter charges that the necklace can hold is increased from 500 to 2,000. Finally, the Grace of the Elves has the effect that while being worn, and while training gathering skills, that there is a 10% chance every minute that a Seren spirit will spawn. The spirit lasts for 30 seconds, and when interacted with by the player, provides one item from the rare drop table and places it into the player's bank. Given that all of the other effects outlined are more quality of life effects and skilling bonuses, whereas this final effect actually can generate some GP for the player, the question I want to ask is this. How long would it take, collecting Seren spirits, to recoup the lost GP spent on the Grace of the Elves? Luckily for us, this process is quite easy, because the drop rates on the rare drop table are all fairly well known. Given that there is a 10% chance per minute of getting a Seren spirit, we are looking at roughly 6 Seren spirits per hour, and thus 6 drops from the rare drop table per hour. When the rare drop table is accessed, the player starts at the tier 1 level, with the most common and cheapest items available. There is a 1 in 128 chance that the player moves on to the tier 2 table, where there are some more rare and more valuable rewards. In the tier 2 table, there is a 4 in 64 chance of moving to the tier 3 table, where there are even more rare and even more valuable potential rewards. Finally, there is an estimated, but not confirmed, 1 in 640 chance of moving to the tier 4 table, where players may access the iconic Hazelemere signet ring worth 6 billion GP at the time of writing the script. Keep in mind, if you want access to the potential Hazelemere signet ring drop, you will need to have tier 4 luck when the roll is done, which can be generated by wearing a Luck of the Dwarves or a Hazelemere signet ring. The Luck of the Dwarves costs 75 million GP if you want to buy one. Although the Hazelemere signet ring is incredibly valuable, it is also incredibly rare, so keep that in mind. Seren spirits have the effect that they bypass the tier 1 table on capture, starting immediately in the tier 2 table. So, given the drop rates and mechanics of the rare drop table, the expected value per roll from each of the categories is 0 GP per spirit from tier 1, 38k GP per spirit from tier 2, 20k GP per spirit from tier 3, and 0 GP per spirit from tier 4. This is if the player is not using tier 4 luck for all of their collected spirits. If the player is using tier 4 luck, the new values for each tier are 0 GP per spirit from tier 1, 32k GP per spirit from tier 2, 25k GP per spirit from tier 3, and 72k GP per spirit from tier 4. With these values, and given our average of 6 Seren spirits per hour, we are looking at hourly GP rates of 348k GP per hour when not using tier 4 luck, or 774k GP per hour when we are using tier 4 luck. Evidently, when using tier 4 luck, we have roughly twice the amount of GP gain per hour, but keep in mind that the majority of this discrepancy is due to the gain GP from tier 4 Seren spirits. What that means is any Hazelemere signet rings that we get. You shouldn't count on getting this drop when collecting Seren spirits because it is so rare. So functionally, for the casual player, the difference between having tier 4 luck and not having tier 4 luck is not really that noticeable. With these hourly GP rates, we are looking at training gathering skills for between 98 and 218 hours to make back what we spent on the necklace. So, if you want to buy and use a Grace of the Elves necklace, you really should be doing so for all of the cool and useful effects it gives outside of the Seren spirits. Of course, you may get lucky and hit the Hazelemere signet ring jackpot roll early, but you shouldn't count on it. I hope you all enjoyed my video. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you have a wonderful and blessed day. Until next time.